Moving on to the next session, I would like to welcome Asgar Chaiwala. He is a QA head at Testfish Technologies. He has worked with various QA teams across the globe from US, UK, Israel, and France. He would be conducting a lab session on karate, simple and unified test automation for BDD. To know more about him and to check his video interview, please check out the link below. Over to you, Ali. You may now present your screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, this is Ali Asgar. I'll just quickly introduce myself. I think a lot of the things have been already discussed about karate, but let me share. My screen is visible, right? Am I audible also? Can anybody just
Yes.
confirm? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll just brief. This. It's okay. So my name is Ali Asgar. I am working with Testing Technologies right now, and I have around 17 years experience in software testing. So we are kind of pure testing organization right now, and we see a lot of work coming on testing area in web application, API testing, mobile testing. A lot of clients are looking for automation in these areas, and we have a lot of framework available in market. We have Selenium, we have Cypress, we have Playwright. A lot of features are available, and we've used them in different projects depending on the client requirement. The thing that I liked about karate, because a lot of the team members that we have are not coming from a programming background, so they always feel a challenge with picking up something which requires either Java or JavaScript or C#. So they find it difficult, and that is something which I found, how we can help the team. So that's where we were started looking for karate, and karate was really easy for any non-programmer coming from computer science background but haven't done a lot of scripting, programming. They can pick up karate as a very easy framework tool. So on this slide, I'll just brief you because a lot of things have been already covered by Kunal and Rajni. I'll just try to highlight the areas which I think are really helping our client in choosing karate as a framework. So karate supports API testing. It is very well suited for the API testing. It is very well placed for the web automation. It is also supporting the performance testing using Gatling. And then the icing on the cake is like it also supports the mocks, because a lot of the time the tester have to mock a lot of information, so they have doubles, which is a mocking functionality in karate. And if you go through these areas, if you see most of the stuff, most of the tools, the new functionality that you see in any of the framework, you will see is been covered over here. So it supports the desktop application, it supports the web application, it supports the mobile based application, it supports it does performance testing. So a lot of functionalities are there, and I think this one session is not pretty enough to cover all the functionalities. I'll just quickly touch upon the stuff that I found really helpful on this session. So I'll quickly share the link. Also, I've created a Git repository, and we'll just try to create a simple basic project. I think a lot of the things have been already covered in previous session, but let's see. Just want to highlight few of the areas which I think are easier in karate as compared to any open source framework or any other framework that you will see in market, where you're coming from a non programming background. You can easily pick up those stuff and you can start building. So for most of the session, we will be using VS Code because I think it has a lot of plugins available for karate, and we will also just try building it from scratch, and then we'll just touch upon some of the high level functionalities. So let me quickly share my screen. These are the prerequisites I've already shared as a part of the installation guide. Nothing complicated required. You just need VS Code. You need Java 8. You need Maven, and you can start using the the framework. So let me quickly share the VS Code, and we'll just start with one dummy project. So it's pretty easy. You can use archetypes. I hope my screen is visible and I can start doing that. So you just need to create a Maven project. When you go to VS Code, you do just search for the Maven project, and you can look for the archetype actually. So the archetype will help you set up everything that you need for the karate framework. So when you look for a karate, you will see the archetype. Now, when you pull this archetype, it will only show you version 1.2.0. But in currently they have released 1.4, which is RC release. But the stable version is 1.3. That's something we can use. So once you do that, I'll just continue doing this because we just want to create the project, and then that's it. So it'll ask for location, where do I want to create the project, and then that's it. It will automatically create a project. So let me just quickly create a folder out here.
Ali,
Yes.
are you sharing screen actually? I mean, I just see the PPT of prerequisite still.
Let me reshare my VS Code. Okay. I think I stopped sharing and I'll reshare it again. And let me know once it is visible. So I'll just repeat the step, what I did right now. Probably there's something called archetypes that will help you set up the Maven project. So you go to VS Code, you press Control-Shift-P, and then it'll ask for the create Maven project. And then you can look for karate. That will show you option for the karate, and then you can select this one. So once you select this one, it will start, it will ask for the folder location, and then it will set up a project for you, and that's it. That's pretty much that you will need for setting up the project. So once it is done, we will open the folder, and then we can start building basic framework that we want to start with. So in most of the projects, we see that there is a requirement for API testing, because we are following a lot of shift left concept, and most of the clients are looking forward for building a API test first and then go to the UI. So Karate fits very well on that, where we can combine both API and UI automation. Now this has created the framework. You really don't need to do anything, and it also creates example scripts for you. It also creates some sample feature files, and then that's pretty much, and you are ready to start building your script. So now compare the same thing with any framework like Selenium or Cypress, where you would still need to do a lot of work setting up the framework. So it's pretty easy. It has given you a sample structure, and then you can start building around. So this is the way you can build it very fast, and you can start building out. Now what I will do is I will share a repository that I have created, then we will walk through the scenarios that we are going to cover in this session. So I'll share the repository. It is a public repository I created that people can download the framework, start using it, and so I've shared that into chat to everyone. Now I'll move to the repository part, where we will touch upon the high-level functionalities, and I'll brief you the minute detail which I think are required from the project creation perspective, framework creation perspective. So usually you will get a frame, structure built up, and then you can start building around it. So I did same thing. I picked up the structure and I started building around it. So on high level, karate config.js is the file that will be helping you running the test on different environments. So let's say you have a multiple environment. You can run the test on specific environment, specific parameters. You can use the karate config.js, which is really simple, really easy. You can set up a lot of baseline variables around it, your base URL things. That's something where karate configs come into. Then there are something called runner files. Now, runner files are basic files that help you run the specific test suite. So in here, I'm just running, test suite with a particular tag mechanism, because we are going to follow BDD. So there are, you can use a lot of tags out here. So the runner helps you run either a feature file or specific tag that you want to run. Now, how a feature file will look like, I'll just brief one of the example over here, and then we'll deep dive into what that code looks like. So this is a basic feature file that we've created. And for the demo purpose, I created an account on GoRest, and I got a token created, and I'm using this particular GoRest API right now over here. So that helps me, now if you think from any other rest assured or any other framework perspective, you would need to do a lot of setup to start building the BDD test, right? You need to write a lot of files, feature files, all those things, to build a structure. But here we don't need to do that. I just want to start testing. I'm not too keen on building a lot of scripting, code where I have to maintain a lot. I can start building around it. So in here, you will have a background feature where you can pass all the information that you want to do before you start running the test. So here I am just passing a URL. I can define a lot of methods. This can be JavaScript method. This can be Java methods. You can define those methods, and you can randomly generate. These stuff can also become part of a utilities, and you can use those things. Now, the really good part that I like about Karate is very simple, easy language. So let's say if you want to read any file, be it Java language or C# or JavaScript, you need to use a lot of third parties. But in here, Karate just provides a simple karate.read function. You can directly read the JSON file, pass it to request body, run your test, compare your response body. That's very simple. You really don't need to do. Even you see the given when then. I haven't done any coding in the background. There are no feature files, just the simple language, which a non-programmer can start building around in a test round. You have the tags over here. You can categorize each of your tests into different categories, and you can run with a build pipeline. Now, similarly in here, I had a token, so I kept it in a separate file. I can read the token from the separate file. I can create some random values, and I can make a post call. So very basic, very simple language where anybody can start building the test, because you can use Postman, you can use Rest Assured, but there are limitations with those tools. There are advantages with Karate, which I've seen, and we have used it over here. Now, as I mentioned that I could read the. I hope it is making sense. Any question that anybody has, because we can discuss a lot in detail. A lot of the basic has been already covered in previous session. We can talk more. We can deep dive more. We can discuss. What is your take on this? Do you think that is it easy enough in any other framework to build a BDD? Use BDD and build any test automation. Anybody want to share anything? Feel free to talk through, and we can discuss on this. Similarly, if we go down, I can use the YAML file. So that's the beauty of in Karate, which I've seen. You can read the YAML file. You have the data in YAML file. You can use the data from JSON file. You can use the data from CSV file. So there is only one command that you need to use. You don't need to write different any other methods or any utilities that you want. And then as in previous session, all those things that you are writing is all given when then you can do verifications. You can use match. So a lot of documentation that Peter has done on Karate. It's pretty much available on the Karate website, which tells you about there are a lot of match conditions that you can use from this framework. So let me just quickly jump into some of the stuff that I can highlight on these documentation and how they are very helpful. So we just touch upon the high level thing. So as we're talking about these stuff, I'll run you through both the UI test also. So a lot of methods, assert methods are available, match, a lot of match conditions. You can put those match condition into your test, and you can verify a lot of the JSON structure. These are very extensive. Because in most of the frameworks, it is very difficult to do the verification on the JSON structure. So a lot of work they have done in using assert for the JSON structure or data that you want to. It also supports XML, which was a really good thing. You can validate the XML structure while you're matching the response or any of those information. It's very easy to use those kind of things over here. Similarly, I'll show you one more example. So everything is there in the repository that I've shared, and we'll also run anything that you think we can put a question in the chat and we can discuss around it. So as I mentioned that here we are doing a get call, very basic get call where I am calling a particular URL, which is my defining my background over here, and it will be used and it will pass the parameter in the URL, it will run it, and that's it. And then we can validate the response. Similarly, in this case, I am reading the token from YAML file, not a JSON file. Depends on my project. If I want to use YAML, I can use YAML. If I want to use JSON, I can use JSON. And I'm reading the token, passing the token, and creating the record out here. Similarly, I can do verification on the status code. I can do verification on the different fields that I want to do. There's one more beautiful functionality that I've seen in here. Let me move to my different branch where I started building that piece so that I can show. It is more you can chain between the calls and you can use that those while you are building it. So there's something called call once. You can use call and call once. There are two functionalities. What it does, let's say you are building something. You are building get you are building a API call, but you also want to refer some other existing API call which is already there. So you can directly call that method into call that feature file into your feature file where you want to use it, and then it will make a call to that particular test. So very easy. Let's say there could be possibility a feature file might have multiple scenarios, but then you can pick up a specific scenario, mention the tag name, and you can use it. Let's say you want to run it only once, then you can use a method called call once, which will only call this method once, and then you can reuse that particular data or response into the consecutive calls. So in here, what I'm trying to do is I'm making call to the API one feature, which is this file. And in this file, I'm only picking up the API create API get method, which will be called, and that's it. So that's the beauty about Karate. It's very easy. You can do multiple callings. You can set up those information into your variables. Defining variables pretty easy. You can define the variable, use DEF, and you can define the variables. Similarly, in here, we have also tried to use, as I mentioned, tags. A lot of tags I have used over here. And I also want to show one of the feature, which is reading from the CSV file. So you can define your CSV files and you can read from the CSV files. Let me just scroll down. In this case, I am reading from reading values from a file. I can read this data from request structure. I can use this request structure directly into my API. Then I can also change the values that I want to pass. So you just need to change, you can define the variable, you can change the value, you can structure, you can pass those things. So this is how a basic structure will look like with Karate. This is the API structure, very basic, simple structure, nothing complex, and you can start testing around it. We have written a lot of feature files with API testing. We have been using it in build pipeline with GitHub Action. It works very well because most of the pipeline supports Maven. It's very easy to set up those Maven things. As I mentioned about matching, you can match a lot of those stuff and you can test those conditions out here. So let me quickly run one of these basic tests and see how does it look like from reporting. I think in the previous session, Kunal did cover about the reports that we have. So we'll just quickly run it through and see how it works. So what I will do is, because I mentioned there are runners, the runners can be used directly to call a specific feature file. We can also use to call a particular tag. So I'll run with a feature file, a specific feature file I want to run. So I'll just mention the runner name.
Does this need Karate Runner extension or?
So Karate Runner extension is only required if you want to run it through the mechanism over here. Otherwise, it won't need Karate Runner actually, which I've seen like if I'm to run it through the runner, I use it. But if I'm running through Maven command, I don't need the Karate Runner. But it's good to have karate runner because it helps you debug the stuff. You can debug the stuff. You can they have added a functionality where you can move back to a particular step and you can do those kind of things. So there are a lot of functionalities that they are adding in comparison to the new framework that are coming up. So let me quickly just copy this one from here. So this is what I'm going to run right now, just the API test, and then let's see. So when you want to set up the karate runner, you need to download two jars. One is karate robot.jar and this one karate jar that you need to set up, and then that will help you run it through, debug it through. So I am not using anything in karate config.js, but if you want to use specific base URLs or URLs, you can use karate config.js. A lot of other functionalities are also there that you can set up in karate config.js. So it is running the feature files right now. So what it is going to run is going to run the API test one feature file, and then let's see how it looks like. So it has executed and it has passed the test. Similarly, you can use Cucumber reports. You can integrate Cucumber with this, and then you will be able to easily get the Cucumber report. We have also tried extend report with this. It works very well. You can also push this stuff to the extend report and use it. So once the tests are executed, I think as we discussed in previous session, most of the results you will see in the target folder. They would be stored in karate reports where you can see, okay, for it creates multiple HTML reports specific to tags and timelines, and you can refer those things. So the beauty about this is that you can also look about what was being sent, what was the response, and what was the verification done, what is my, if you want to print something, you can print in between. A lot of those functionalities are there. So it's a very detailed report you will see over here. Now, as I mentioned that I did try to change the particular chaining of multiple tests. You can do that. So you will also see that if there is a test which has been called from a different feature file, you will see it over here in the report also. So similarly, we did a post call. It went through, it created the record, and then that was done. And similarly in here, so I'm calling a different feature file. So it was been called through, it ran the test, and then it ran the actual test, which is there in the feature file. So this is how the feature file will look like. So reports will look like for a feature file. And lot of verification you can put on those JSON response. You can use different methods. You can use date methods. You can create those methods inside the file, or you can create a utility folder where you can build a lot of these methods, like the math method. We use a math method just to generate a random number. This can be a UUID. This can be a any other method that you want to do. You can create a utility, and then you can just read the utility. Just read the utility file, and then it will help you run the test. Similarly, on the UI side also, I think pretty similar thing that we saw in a previous previous demo. We'll touch upon it. I think a lot of those things already been covered in previous sessions, so I'm not going to deep dive into it. But if you see, it is very easy. I haven't written any feature file, any feature definition in the background. I'm just writing the BDD test in the BDD format, and I can build my test. We can use the tags also over here, and then you can run the test with the tags. You can define your browsers that you want to do. You don't need to set up any driver instance. It will automatically create the instance, and you can use those things. Same thing, there's one more feature which I liked about file upload. Pretty simple logic. I think you will find it in my repository also. Very simple. You have a URL, you did an input file, you want to upload something, you just pass the file name, you click submit, and then the file is uploaded. Very basic, simple test that you can do for file upload, because this is always a critical scenario which you might encounter. How do a file upload? How do I write these kind of tests? Very simple test to build and write on. Same thing over here. I'm using scenario outline as we discussed in previous session, where we are trying to pass different set of data val parameter that you want to do. You can use either the scenario outline, you can use a CSV file, you can use a JSON file, and then it's very simple. You don't need to add any other reader utility or anything. It is very easy for any QA to write these kind of tests. So these are the high level things that we have seen. Like as I mentioned, the JSON structure. I'm reading a token from a JSON file. I can read a token from a YAML file. Those files can be read through in the system, and then that's how it works. Similarly, I can run the whole feature via test runner, which is sitting outside the test suite. If I want to run a specific feature file with a tag, I can do those things with tags. It supports tag mechanism, and you can do that. Recently, they also started supporting visual testing, where you can directly capture the the before test, and you can compare with. It is a very recent version that they have is 14 version, where they are doing visual validation. It actually does image comparison from previous version to newer version, and that helps you set up and compare two of the files, and you can baseline those files. So that's a really good functionality they have added recently to support the visual testing, because a lot of the clients are looking for how they can do the visual testing for these applications. There's one more thing which I found really good about the framework. It also supports, you can push all your logs into a system, create a centralized reporting dashboard. So they are using some functionality where you can push those stuff. One more thing which I liked about performance testing on this one, you can integrate Gatling with this, where you can run the same test, but you want to do performance. Let's say a client wants performance testing for the APIs. You can directly use the Gatling along with your API test, and you can uh, uh, generate the Gatling reports with that. So really easy. Yes.
Ali, can we read data from Excel and use it as our parameters?
No, currently it's only supports CSV right now, because if you think from a build pipeline perspective, because most of our automation are built around the build pipeline, we would prefer either YAML, JSON, or CSV, because those are very easy to read, right? So it currently supports CSV right now. But if you want to do that, then you can write a Java-based utility, method, which can do that read, and then you can use those convert into data stream and pass it to the test. But that will be possible because you can create your own utility using JavaScript or Java in this framework. But currently it only supports CSV, XML. I've seen YAML and XML also. They are supporting it right now. So I think so this is what I had around. We can run the test, we can run the UI test, you can run the API test. You can combine both of them. Let's say in any of your project where you want to. They also support intercept. You can intercept between a call, and you can pass it through the your URL, and you can use it. So a lot of those things are possible, which are there in the latest newer framework that are coming up. Like Cypress supports the intercepting of the APIs. You can do same thing with Karate. If you compare, there are a lot of things they are adding, which is also available in the newer framework. They're trying to enhance those features into the Karate. And recently, we have seen the community is active very much. They are Peter himself is working, responding to a lot of the issues on a lot of the Stack Overflow. You'll see his response coming up. So he is supporting Karate with any issues that you encounter. You can just log in there, and he will provide a release or fix for that. So this was high level. I had it. If you want, I can quickly run through UI test, and this pretty much same that we saw in previous demo. It's the same test that we had, and as it was mentioned, there are a lot of locator strategy that we have. You can use the name, you can use ID, you can use above, below, those kind of functionalities to locate an element. That helps you while building the test. So I think, yeah. So I've tried the iframe also over here, where I can switch between iframe. In most of the other frameworks, it is, they have uh, like in case of Cypress, it doesn't support iframe. Selenium does support it, and then I think with recent release they started doing it. But here it's pretty easy. You can switch between the iframes. Just use switch frame method, and then you can directly switch between two iframes. Similarly, drop down, you can easily run these drop down things, and you can, like in any of the frameworks, very easy to write. You can just use those locators and set it drop down. So anything else you want to talk through? We have a good amount of time, because I don't want to repeat the same stuff that we had in previous demo. But I just want to cover a little more in detail. Just want to get a feedback. Was it helpful? Anything else you want to go through it? We can give it a try. A lot of this code I've already pushed in the repository. We can use it. You can run it through.
Integration with CI tool, how it is?
Yes, so integration is pretty easy. You can directly, because most of the integration with build pipeline, you can do it because they support Maven. So you have to have a Maven Java dependencies pulled into the agent machines, and then you can run the test with that.
Can you show us about adding external libraries here, like from where we can do that?
Yeah, so
Support.
so in case currently, I'll show you one of the example where we are having a utility that we are building. This is one of the project that we have. So we want to build our own utilities, our own methods. So we are kind of created our own utilities packages, where we are writing a lot of tests around it. So I'll just quickly show you, like database utilities. We want to read database. So we have created our own Java utilities over here that we want to use it, connect to database. Similarly, if you want to create JavaScript code, let's say you want to use random functions and those things, you can use these random functions and those methods. You can build in utilities and then use it. So in here, like I'm using random functions, I can use faker data also over here and create those things. So this is how we can create these utilities, and then you can import these utilities into your feature files, which will help you get these things set up into your feature files and use those data, like date utilities that we have. Address, you want to generate an address, you want to do those things. A lot of those functionalities are there, randomly generating numbers. So because you need a lot of those things, and then you just build them once and you can use it into your test. So a lot of these things you have to build it yourself when you are creating your test and feature around it for test data.
Okay, thanks, Ali.
And how about drag and drop things?
Drag and drop, I think it supports drag and drop between two element. So they have options to support drag and drop on UI element also. So a lot of those things are there from the locators and those strategies that they have, so which support a lot of those things. I have mostly used file upload and those things, but it does support a lot of those things. My most of the advantage that I see with Karate was building the test around APIs, because we had a lot of APIs that we want to test, a lot of test data setup. But UI, we had just used few basic approach and UI testing, but I think it does support drag and back, and double check on that piece, and I can come back to it. I see that they started supporting GraphQL also. We should analyze it how better is it for GraphQL, because a lot of the clients that we have started using the GraphQL as integrated their front end. So they also start supporting GraphQL for their testing.
Do you have an example of mocking?
Not yet, not in this example, but they have doubles where you can set up your own mock server into local. I've read through it, but how it works is you have to set up your own local server, and the doubles will help you create the response. It won't go to the client side, it would hit from your response back, and you can use those doubles into your API test.
Ali, Ravi here.
Yes.
So it happens that when we hear mock and double, so we usually get confused. What is that? Especially when someone is trying to learn it.
Right.
Please can you show an example and possibly a short demo, if that is possible.
Sure. What I would do is I've shared the repository. I'll build a sample example because it would need me to set up a mock server over here. I'll do that setup and I'll push into the repository. But they have a very simple mechanism of using doubles out here. That helps you create your own mocking server. You don't need to build anything like mock server or anything. You can directly use that doubles for your testing. So what I would do is I'll just create a sample project on this and push it into the repository so that people can use it. So, but it is very much it's the approach they have done is you have the mocking server running in between, which will be part of the framework. It is not outside the framework. So that way you would be easily able to mock the stuff that you want to share. But I can build a sample example and I can share you those things.
Okay.
Ali,
So,
did you try parallel execution as well?
okay,
Yes,
man, so
parallel it supports. I think as I mentioned in the test runner, we saw that it does support parallel runs, and I've seen it with the API test very well. It works very well. So whenever you are building your test runner for API, or you can pass the number of parallel sessions that you want to run, you can do those things. So they have this test parallel. You can build a test parallel, and you can pass the number of threads that you want to initiate. Like I want to initiate 5 threads, so it will run in parallel and get you a response back.
how
Because
would
it is inline, it is using JUnit 5 right now. So it supports parallel. You can run those parallel tests, and same for the UI also. It does it.
Hali Ravi here. So
Yes.
again, these days, okay, we also talk about this one, the contract testing, right?
Yes.
So how can one leverage Karate and its capabilities test the contract testing?
So I would still because I have mostly used it for API testing, but they say that they are working on something on contract level testing, but I haven't seen it. Most of our work is around API test, because from QA perspective we don't do anything on a contract level of testing right now. We are mostly focused on API side of it. But I think in previous call they were talking around in 1.4 release they might have that change for contract level testing that they want to implement.
And one more frequent question, okay, that we get when we automate for API use cases, like how to get a response from one API and store and use that in some other API. So this is a common question, and yes, that you walk through that, okay, in a demo. Please again, can you walk through that so that it will help the larger audience?
So in here, if you see example out here, very basic example where I am, I am hitting a user endpoint, I'm getting a response out of it. I'm storing that data into the response that I received. And then I'm again using the same over here. So let me just put a print out here. You will see what is the response, and we are using it a second call. So if you see in this test, there are 2 APIs that I'm calling. One is I'm trying to fetch all the users, and then in second I want to pick up the first user and pass it to the second test. So in here, when it is when we are running this particular test, let me just quickly run it through so that it looks better. What I will do is I'll just change it and then I'll just run. So I'm just going to run this particular test over here, and you see that in the test it will first go to the first API call, fetch the information, and then it will let's see. So let's see if it runs, and then I'll show the report out here. So there are two API calls that we are sending, and then we are using the response from one, and we are using it. And same thing when we did call with call when we use call a particular feature, there also you can capture a response and you can use it in consecutive test.
Ali Vikram here. With regards to report, I have one question. So the just few minutes back, you show one report, and there is one more portal which Kunal and
Yes.
the Kunal showed. So particular report is belong to open source version, or it is a part of enterprise version?
I think the one that we see over here in Karate reports, it is the free version that they have it. But what the Kunal and group were mentioning with the report UI, you can integrate the Karate with report UI and can check it. So what ultimately happens is all the data that you are pushing in here will go to the report server, and it will do its own algorithm or AI thing, and it will give you a beautiful report out there. But what we see as a normal out here, we can use this basic report that has been generated with the Karate.
Right. So
So
you are
in
not
here,
sure upon that report, right? The report
not.
portal. Okay,
Yes, so
okay,
that's
fine.
a paid version. Probably you need to go report UI. It's a paid license version that you need to pick, and you can plug in with any of the framework that you have.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
So this one, what you see is I have defined a variable. I got the value, and then I'm passing this value. So if you see, I ran one of the tests, which is this one, get call. It responded with some data, and I'll pick up this particular ID from this test. So this was a basic get call, and then I'm using this particular ID into the next test which I want to run. So 5203, you see the first record has been picked up. So you can pick up any of the record you want or any of the information, and you can pass it to second call. You really don't need to write a lot of logic. Very simple language over here. Just define a variable and use the value you want to use it, and then pass it through the next test that you want to do. Same thing when I showed you over here in this example, where I'm making a call, I'm chaining a call because I want to do a get call before a post call. So I have define a variable which is get response, and in here the response that I will receive, I can directly use as get response and use it in consecutive test. You can also define global variables. Let's say you have authorization in place. What you can do is you can define those things in background at the top of the feature file, and then all the tests can refer that particular variable into the test. It's authorization bearer token or something of that sort. You can use it in consecutive test.
So can such kind of variables for locators?
Not much aware on the UI side right now, but you should be able to easily define the locators also. What you can do is, let's say you have a locators, you would you can do a read file. It can be a YAML file where you have the locators, and you can read that YAML into the background. So what will happen in case of background, it will be available across the feature file. So if I have written something in background over here, then it would be applicable to all the features that are down there. So what I would rather do is I will basically define a basic variable which would be just like this over here, okay, and then I can use this variable across all the scenarios that I have, because I can have multiple scenarios defined out here, so I can use it and then I can pass it. You can also define a global variable also if you want, but global variable you would need to define into the karate config.js. That is where you have this configuration that would make it a global across the suite then.
Okay. And can we execute one test case for multiple browsers? Like configure here, configure there is
Yeah,
one
so you need to define
one.
all the different but you need to define all the, what I would suggest in that case, you can create a file which will have all the driver instances that you want, and you can read through that particular file while you're running the test, because you have a scenario outline approach, or you can read through all the configuration that you would need to do as a separate, not in this particular feature file won't have it, but when feature file will start running it, it would read through the common files. I think there is example I can share you in the repository where you can run with multiple different browsers picked up from a common file. You don't need to write different scenarios in that case. One scenario with different outline, depending on that outline, it'll create the particular browser instance and you can use it. Because creating browser instance is very basic over here. You just need to pass the browser name. So what you would do is you will just parameterize this value, and then you can iterate through scenario outline and you can create those instances. So
Ravi,
Yes.
Can you Ali show us, like, if you want to debug a particular script, how we can?
I don't have example on this one, but what you would need to do is you need to set up the configuration, your debug configuration. As I mentioned, two of the files that you would need is one is the robot karate robot.jar and karate.jar that you need to set up in your environment variables, and then probably that will allow you to debug the stuff. And then you can put a breakpoint out here. Automatically, what will happen? It will wait until that particular step is okay, and then you can continue from this. Not in this version, not in this setup, but that is pretty feasible option that you can use.
Okay.
You need to set up your launch config.json, and then probably it will help you debug through.
Ali, is it applicable for SOAP services? Can we use it?
Sorry, yeah, SOAP services. I've seen they are showing XML because SOAPs are XML. I think they support SOAP services also. Yes.
Okay.
So you can read the XML file into a request body and pass it through. Yes, they do it.
There are some questions, Ali, in the chat as well. You can probably give an answer to them.
Yes.
I'll read for you otherwise.
Yeah, so I think
sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. So I did talk about it. You have a math operation out here. So what you would need to do is, I think I'm just reading this one. In this case, what you will need to do is you need to define a math function. As I mentioned, I did a random math function, and then you can use it, and you can pass that value. So I just showed this example over here where I have a math function in my test because I want to create a random number. And that random number will be a math function or any other function, and then you can use that random number into your test. So I'm using this random function over here, and then this random number can be passed through. So that is something, if that is a question, then that can be possible.
Second is something about mobile automation. SOAP services mentioned.
SOAP, I think SOAP supports it. Mobile automation, I will set up something on this one because I'm working on it right now, where you can integrate with your mobile setup, and you can do it. They are supporting Android and iOS devices, but I need to test it. But they are supporting, the Karate supports it. Yes.
And the last is getting involved in the development of or attend their release meetups.
I didn't catch up this question. What do you mean by this one? How can we get involved in the development or attend their release meetup? I think it should be part of your sprint planning, sprint release activity. So in most of the industry standard, how it happens that they would do their planning and they would have their release timeline defined. If you ideally if you are getting impacted for the release, you should know that what time I'm going to get the release and when it get deploy, if it is through build pipeline or what is the mechanism. I think that QA.
No, sorry. I actually wanted to know about getting involved in the Karate framework development, being an open source.
Yes, I think I've been in talking to Peter also in a lot of Slack. I think you can contribute in there. They are also now, I think with the visual testing functionality that they added, they are taking support from outside where people can support and add new functionality into their framework. So it's open source. We will contribute there. Yes.
So to add upon that, for Ganesh, so once we join to the Slack community of the Karate, and we can catch the Peter Thomas there. So yes. and other people who are contributing. So from there, okay, we can look at like the list what they have, like to work upon, and also the fixes, like what they want to make. So they'll be doing the walkthrough, like once, like the setup and everything, and from there we can start contributing.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think they are growing in their numbers also, because last session when they had a release for I think 1.4 RC that is coming up right now. So where they did mention that they are open they are adding a lot of feature where we can contribute it there, and if you are interested, then probably you can connect with them.
Ali, I have this question, okay, from the perspective of a test engineer who is looking at the framework and it's like, okay, means this code base, okay, what you're sharing.
Yes.
Okay, so let me take that person's mind, and I want to ask this question. So when I pull this code and open this code base on my IDE,
yes,
how should I learn? Okay, and how should I learn and approach this code base? And so which is that? How should I map the code? Means which file call which and how. So this will help that test engineer to get started using Karate, and also it gives an idea of how the workflow of the code happens actually in this code base. Can you walk through that in a short and
right? So let's say if once you pull this code, I think I have already created a README also along with that will help you set up those things. But once you pull the code, this is what you will see. You won't get a target folder. You will just get a POM, and you will have this information. And these folders are something that we have created for our own purpose because we want to separate out the API and UI test, right? So in my approach, the way I've done is there are multiple things. They're like your data files. You want to create your own data files. You want to create some common endpoints because you want to use those common endpoints. You can refer those common endpoints in the YAML file. So these are the folders where you can put all your stuff, and then these features can also go into feature folders and then the runner file. So there is mostly feature file and runner file that you will see in Karate. These are the key files that you will see. You will see feature files, you will see runner file, and you will see config .js file. These are the three critical components you will always see out there because they are the only required ones. And your pom.xml because that contains your dependencies that you want to do, right? So once you pull that stuff, and then there's nothing much is required because once you pull and when you do Maven install, it will install all the dependencies required for your framework, and then that's it pretty much. And then you can start building your own feature file, and feature files are pretty easy. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of scripting that you need, right? If you have basic understanding of BDD, how given when then are written, then you can easily go through it. So let's say you are aware you want to write API tests. So you need to know what is my endpoint, what is my parameters that I have to pass, what is my method, what is my response. So those are the basic things that you need to understand from API and BDD perspective, and that's it. You don't need to even build anything else apart from that when you're writing API tests using Karate at least. And it's pretty simple. You can build this one, and same for the UI test also. So feature file remains same. The only thing is in UI test, the methods will vary because we are talking about driver in here. We are not talking about any get, push, port, or post to calls over here. And we are talking about the elements like input, click, and all those things. A lot of methods are predefined in documentation. You can start, trying it and those things. So these are basic ones. I kept it over here. They're very basic test, approach, the code that we have, and then we can start building around it. So you can refer some of these templates, and a lot of this information you can get from the Karate repository also.
So Ali, like about regarding browser configuration, can we use like in case of our regular I mean, here I see you have configured, okay, as part of background you have configured,
yes,
and this automatically takes care of initializing the Chrome browser. So by default it supports Chrome browser even if you do not specify. That's
yes,
what I
default
understand.
is Chrome. Yes.
Okay, but if I want to specify other browser, then do I need to specify here?
Yes, you need to specify in background only because then only the driver instance will be created. Actually, it is pretty much same how you do in Selenium, right? Because you need the driver instance first, right?
Selenium, we also use this WebDriver IO. I mean, WebDriver manager. So that dependency we can also add in POM and can use it here.
Yeah. So here we don't have it right now. If you see, you can use it executables also. Let's say you don't want currently it might support a latest version of Chrome, but you want a different version. Then you can point to a specific executable file for the Chrome driver and you can use it. But you don't need a separate WebDriver configuration or anything required. It will automatically take care of it actually.
Oh, okay, I see.
Ravi,
yes.
like let's say now, okay, a test engineer, an engineer who's testing is familiar with Postman, and he or she does use this one, the Chai library to assert there.
Right.
Like something we have familiar here in karate to us. Can you walk through how can we assert and like for what can we assert?
Yeah. So I think I did kept over here because in most of the JSON response that you will see, it is a REST API, so it will be have a JSON structure in response. So you can use match. Match has a lot of functionalities, which is more like assertion. This helps you validate a lot of the things that you get in your response. Actually, in case of Postman, you will write your test methods where you will do assertion, you will do verification, or in case of rest assured, you will do some assertions or some of those. Similarly, we have a match. You want to match something with a particular structure, or like in Postman, you might use tiny validator to define a structure, right? So here you can use match with a particular structure, or you want specific value, you want this field to be mandatory in response, you can use match, which is a function available over here. And that this match also works with UI. It's not only about the API. You can use match with the text that you want to compare. Let's say you want to just match that in response, you want this URL. So the match is more like assertion that you do. So in karate, they have this match functionality which supports to do the assertions like in any of the library. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, and audience now, okay, we are opening up to the much the bigger area. So
Yes.
if you have questions in testing of API, like how to test APIs and for what to test, yeah, even we can discuss them as well with Ali, and you can unmute and also you can open up your camera and talk to Ali and all of them. Yeah, it's open. So Ali, following okay from there, so
yes.
Like how should one approach the testing of an API? Okay, I mean it's two things here. Like how should one approach testing of an API, and how should one approach the automation of an API? Means the web API. Yes.
So I'll just brief you how it works in our projects. Most of the cases that the backend developer will have the APIs defined. So they would either use Swagger documentation to publish those information with the structure, how the API will look like, what are the methods. So first thing to look for a QA is where is Swagger documentation. Most of the cases, the developer will have a Swagger documentation created for each of the endpoints. Now, once you know where is my Swagger documentation, then you can start getting the information that what are the methods that I have, what are the request body structure, are there any authorization in place? There could be OAuth authorization, there could be JWT authorization. You need to understand those things because that is the first step to know what are my APIs and what are their input, what are their outputs, what I need to validate, what are the response code. There could be 200 response codes, 400 response codes. All those verification, you need to make sure that you at least do one round of manual verification. You can, in most of the cases, you can use Postman because it's very easy to. And once you know your structure of the API, your response, then you can start automating it because you need to at least know what are my length of the particular field that I'm looking forward for, what will my input length, because if you have a stronger verification of the API, then that reduces a lot of UI automation effort that you do. So if you think from a agile testing parameter perspective, the more tests that you have in the API and unit level, the less number of UI tests it will write, because then UI can focus on the user journeys. So I've seen people writing user journeys in API where the APIs are built in flow where one of the APIs is doing login, then another API is doing the data setup, and then you are testing all those structure. So that also helps you find the issues early rather than at the UI level. So you need to understand where is my documentation from Swagger perspective, what are my input, what are my outputs, if there is authorization required, and then you can start using any of the tool, be Karate, be it Postman, and you can use any of these tools to build your automation around it.
Ali, one question.
Yes.
I hope if you have not, you can say so. The application which are developed in a Pega system, Pega environment.
Yes.
Their APIs are also available.
Right.
So how should we approach for those kind of APIs verification? And if you want to leverage this Karate's, like advantage, how we should be doing that? I mean, those are not like really exposed to the outside world in that case.
Right. So, so it really doesn't matter. Do you have the environment where you can hit it? Do you have the endpoints? Are those endpoints REST-based endpoint? The tool doesn't block you from using it if it is inside the the particular network or those things. So
actually, there are two ways. One way is like inside their Pega application, they have created their own kind of an UI, you can say,
right.
data. Data some sort of name. Okay, this is what actually I remember, and there you can really run those APIs. But if you try to run the same through Postman, it doesn't allow. It doesn't.
So it is not a HTTP call, or is it always inside the Pega system?
Always inside the Pega system, I would say.
So it's not exposed. It's not a HTTP call that you can do. I mean, I think for REST perspective or SOAP perspective, the call has to be HTTP calls, right? Or now with the there are other internal API calls, the contract
internal API call actually, but the team is able to use them inside the Pega environment itself, I would say. Yeah, but not even using the Postman API. That's the problem. So in such case, actually, we can't use, right?
Right. If it is inside the, I think Pega is very confined for the financial industry. I guess that's what my understanding is. Wrong. So I'm not sure like how open their APIs are, but you would need at least HTTP call to understand those APIs and build a structure out.
Okay. And what one should do, like Swagger is something not everyone provides.
Right.
There are developer team who just shares you just a simple Word document with request and response. And even if don't know, like it depends on the organization as well as overall structure. Sometimes even we don't get that, then what one should have an approach to it.
So in some of the cases, I would I agree with that point that in some of the applications which are pretty stable, people might not give you all the documentation. So one is thing you understand how the UI layer is. You can go into Chrome console, identify what are the endpoints, how they are working. At least you need to do some groundwork understanding those endpoints, and then ask relevant question: what is wrong from this endpoint perspective? Because at times what I've seen, the issues are at the API level, which you uncover in the UI part, right? It is not a UI perspective issues. Those are actually the integration layer issues. So if you start digging into the Chrome console, identify what are the get calls, what are the post calls, how it is working, that will help you build the understanding of that particular application. Though you might not have documentation around it, but you can figure out what are the API calls, right? How the header works, what are the authorization, how the cookies are being set. So you can figure out those information from the console.
Okay. I see you have given an example of bearer token, and you mentioned that you are planning to share the other examples with us. How?
Yes. So I just created this bearer token. I think that's a very open source Go REST API I've been using. That bearer token is, probably you need to create your own token when you want to use this REST API. This one you can create your own token and use it. This is a Go REST. So it will allow you to create your own token with GitHub accounts, and you can start building around it.
No, so I'm trying to understand, Ali. So if you want to share, your repositories whenever they are available, how you are planning to share with us?
So I've currently removed this token. Probably you might need to create your own token. The only thing you need to change is the token. That's it, pretty much. I think the token that we talked through, that token probably you need to create your own token, pass it through in SPS over here.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have an example to share about the OAuth 2 and 1 related?
Not in this one, but we need to understand this Karate supports OAuth 2 authentication. It supports it, so we can put an example out there in repository where you can understand how the OAuth 2 works, and I can put example on that works. Yes. But in most of the front-end application, you will see that they use JOT token, and it's pretty easy. You can build understand about JOT token, try passing it. Most of the cases in API, you will encounter issue with the token authorization piece, and then make sure how you're putting authorization. Is it expiring? Is it it expiring in 1 minute? So you need to do a refresh. So in any of the API testing tool, you need to figure out how you can handle it, because the refresh is required. In some cases, if you send one call, the second call would need a refresh, how you capture it, how you reuse it, those kind of patterns need to be.
One thing I noticed you mentioned about, sorry, I just lost the track. My bad. I'll ask you again. You can ask the question answer for this Vaibhav's questions. Can multi-data and parallel multi-device execution is possible?
I see that question over here. I think currently it supports the devices. I haven't seen the. It supports the Android and iOS. I need to still work upon it because I've seen the UI part of it. But Karate supports Android and iOS devices right now. When you are building the driver and those things, so they're available. You need to integrate with your Android specific simulators, and then you can start using it.
And do we have a similar support like Apply tools with this?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I haven't seen the Apply tools, how the integration works from other application, but I think it should, because currently this piece supports grid and those stuff. So I don't think there should be a challenge, using browser stack or Lambda test or Apply tool. I don't think there should be a challenge with that.
Okay.
Yes. Ravi,
Yes.
are there any basic checks for the performance of API? I mean, the endpoint in Karate. Like
Yes.
if I assert, okay, the response shouldn't take, okay, something, okay, behind this, like that.
Yes. So what you can do is, I mean, it is common for any API tool, Ravi, I would say, not just Karate. So in industry standard that we say that API should respond in 500 milliseconds. So you can put all those verification in place. You really don't need to use any performance testing tool ideally, because unless you really want to do load and those things, because any basic API, if it is the response time is beyond 500 milliseconds, you can fail those tests in your automation. So Karate supports it. Yes, you can validate the response time. Similarly, Postman or any other tool, you can use a response time verification there. That will help you measure the performance of the specific application.
Can you show that an example? How do you do that? Okay.
I think in here, when we are talking about response over here, when I capture this response, it also has a response header. So what you would capture is you would have a definition of response header defined out here, which would be more often. Oh, sorry, it's not visible. Sorry. Let me reshare. Let me show you on the report where you would see it. So when you run this particular test, let's say when we ran this particular test, we saw that there's 853 milliseconds out here, right? So this is my, you can capture this from the response header, and you can put it as a part of your verification that if response is beyond, specific time, that test will fail. So you can define a variable out here, which would say response header, and then you can say what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a response header from the API. So you can capture the value, and then sorry.
Yeah. So a few days back, I was looking at one of the API, okay, a problem. So in that API use case, okay, the payload was in the form of an XML.
Yes.
XML. The response was the XML.
Yes.
And so typically, what we see is, okay, an example of JSON today.
Yes. Yes.
If I have to use XML payload in request or response, so
yes.
How to pass an XML, okay, response payload.
Yeah.
Maybe sharing that, it will help, okay, the people.
Yeah. So I'm just covering over here. I think I did mention about that Karate supports the XML structure. You see our example over here where they have this XML structure. This can be a file also, okay? And it really doesn't matter to the variable over here. And then you can define that what you want to match with. Any of the example that you see where we are defining XML structure out here, and you can validate particular information. So that's a beauty about these variables. They are not very bound to the type of the value that you're sending, but it would capture XML as a variable. You can pass XML information. You can send those as a request body. So Karate supports XML, JSON, both of the structure out here. you can read the files also. If it is XML file, you can just do karate.read, it will read the XML file, same as a JSON file, and then you can put your structure out there. You can send into the your HTTP request that you have. So I think, yeah, they very well support the XML structure. So, yeah.
So Ali, there is one question I have just, I just need your inputs on this. Like I have a collection, which is something like I'm passing some job configurations. And based on the job configuration, it is checking. I mean, through Postman, actually, we are checking whether the job is running or not. And then we are passing, if the job is not available in that get call, I mean, response, then we are mentioning that the job is not running. Let's trigger the same job, which is not running. Okay. This
you want to retry.
Yeah, we want to retry actually. So does this kind of mechanism can be implemented with the help of Karate? And if we want to, what approach I should be following in this case, Ali?
So my first question would be, are you, so you are already using Postman out there, you have the collections defined, right? So
yeah, collections defined, many global variables are defined and interdependent APIs.
Right. So in here, what I would say, even Postman should be able to support you on that stuff, because probably you might just to figure out what JavaScript and those things, you have to figure out those stuff. You can do that piece in Postman, but in Karate also, what you can do is, let's say you have your HTTP call defined, you get your response. So in that, you can define your if-else condition. So it's pretty easy. If I want to define a if-else condition, I can put that into my feature file. So it is very easy. You can define your logic in here. You want to do something, you can define all those things into this method. So depending on your response, it can take care of that stuff. So Karate, the language is pretty, in the framework, you really don't to worry about, let's say I want to check, okay, what is my response header? If this is like this, do this. If so, so you can do a lot of programming in here while you're writing your API test. So we have done it in a lot of the project where you can do a lot of manipulation, conditions switching in between your API calls. You can do that piece.
But this is something actually, what exactly I wanted to understand, like before triggering a next API, I want to make sure that this is there. So
so you do a call once first. Okay. So, you got a call once done. So call once will happen. It will call once, it will check, come back with the response. Now with your response, you can do your logical thinking that what I want to do next call, I can skip it. So you remember I showed this piece.
Yeah. Call and call once.
Call once, right? So I can put it in a condition. Okay. Okay. Let's say if in here, if the random number is something like this, if my random number is, something, whatever response you want to do it, you can pass it over here, you can validate it. And then depending on that, you can make this call. So you can put all those logical conditions and you can do it actually. That is the beauty over here. So I don't need to worry about putting it separately. So you can, put it in this fashion. It will allow you to do this.
Oh, great.
So this is the, I can do a lot of in between, calculation mechanism. I can do that in between in Karate.
Yeah, actually, it probably you have done and worked a lot onto Karate Pay. You probably, it sounds like to you.
But it makes sense, right? Because in Postman, you cannot do it, because in Postman, either it will be a next call or something else or whatever, you can do it, right?
Actually, we in Postman, we have pre-request and that test actually available.
So what you would need to do is in Postman also, you can add it to your prerequisite. What happened to my previous call? If so, then do this. I'll skip this one and do the next one. You can do those next steps also, right?
Okay, got it. And overall, just wanted to understand, like, the learning curve for any newbie. If I want to, let's say, I want to assign this to a new person, he or she is not, like totally into the technical work for this particular thing. I want to give them an idea. Okay, we have to start with the Karate. Just wanted to understand from your end the learning curve for these kind of people who are very new to these activities.
I think it is much faster than if you ask somebody to learn rest assured, right? Okay. So we have been hiring a lot of freshers from a lot of colleges, and we want to train them. And because that's the API testing, they can pick up very fast. And once they're done with manual testing, we train them on Postman, and then that's it. And then probably they can pick up tools like Karate, because Karate doesn't really need you a Java expertise or JavaScript expertise. And I've done with few of my team members, and they found it pretty easy. and then it is easy for them to learn any language, because if somebody is not coming from a language, expertise around, so they find it pretty easy, because they don't need to write a lot of things in actual scripting. Like if you want to read a file, how would you do it in Java? You need to do a lot of sysout, sysint and those things. You have to read the files and those things. You really don't need it, because my objective is to test something. I can just do a read and that's it. No, those are pretty easy as compared to the framework.
Here, let's assume like we are reading JSON. Let's assume it is a case of CSV or XLS. I want to read a particular column data.
Yes.
Have you done that anywhere?
Yes, we did that in this example. I think scenario outline. So let's say I'm reading a CSV over here. Okay. And this CSV, I only want to read particular information. So what will happen, whatever value I'm passing user ID, password, it has the columns that are user ID, password. I don't want to read password, I skip it out. I can read some other variable from that row, right? I can do that. Same for the JSON also. When you're using JSON, you can do that.
I see. Okay, you have defined the.
Yes.
Oh, okay. There is no specific. And you also mentioned that this also support desktop automation.
Yes. They tell it from documentation perspective. They support desktop automation. I think they are using Win API. I guess that's not
Win app driver.
Win app driver.
Win app driver. Okay.
Yeah. They support the Windows app.
But Ganesh,
yes,
I have worked a lot on Karate. So for desktop, I will not recommend you, because a lot of challenge will come there. Right,
Okay.
Ali?
Yeah, definitely.
No. See, actually, like Ali and Rohit, you might have noticed. Usually desktop automation we don't do. We do not go ahead. But what happens, like there are certain web applications who interacts with some of the Windows dialogues. So like file upload, browse thing. At that time, actually, we can take help of.
No, you use robot over here. Karate supports a robot thing. So I think it's pretty easy if you have very specific components you want to print. Like I showed the file upload thing, right? The file upload is pretty simple mechanism where you are using a Windows component. So they support it, and those small things you can definitely do it. Right?
Okay, I see. That would be great help then in that case. Okay, I'm not seeing like the advantage of having this over the common web applications of automation. Usually people prefer having Selenium all the time, most of the time, in fact, I would say. So the Karate can be a good choice actually on the top of what we have. Like earlier, it was a case in the discussion. Most of the time people used to say, okay, Selenium, we have Selenium WebDriver. So, okay, we'll go ahead with this Java thing. If someone is having JavaScript, let's go ahead with the WebDriver IO thing.
Right.
But now this is another thing. Okay.
So one of the things which we face from an industry perspective, how to find the people with the right skill. If you want automation on Selenium, you need to have somebody with Java knowledge, JavaScript knowledge, C# knowledge. It's very difficult, and then it takes time for anybody to learn. So I found it pretty easy for somebody to pick up Karate's automation framework and start building something, because we want to deliver the stuff. We don't want to build a very comprehensive, exhaustive framework, and which is like very monolithic thing you have built up. It's hard to maintain. It's easy. Karate is pretty easy, which I observed.
Ali, like as you said, like with the help of Selenium, what we are able to do is like at a high level, I would say enterprise level framework. Okay, that implementation kind of something possible with the Selenium. That's what I noticed, or other tools, paid tools, in fact. But when it comes to, because for example, I'll give an example is like at an enterprise level, I have a kind of structure wherein my different projects, page objects and page classes would be a separate project itself altogether, which is called as a base project, you can say. And I'll just create on the top of that separate test projects. And those will be just reusing these things. Okay. Again, here Maven plays a vital role, but still, apart from that, if you talk, when I prefer using over Selenium, I mean, instead of Selenium, I prefer using Karate. How that is going to be useful? Visibility, I really don't know. You can probably focus on that.
I think what I will do is I'll publish a recent thing which they shared with us in one of the discussion in Karate when they released 1.4. I'll publish it where you will see that a lot of Fortune 500 companies started moving into Karate. Actually, they found it pretty easy using it. Let me share that.
Have you been involved into customization? Yes,
Ganesh. So if you talk in terms of practically, so I will say that using a Selenium for complex enterprise solution will be preferable over Karate as per my experience. Reason, because karate has some limitation and it is right now in evolving phase, first of all. Because I personally worked from last 4 to 5 years on karate when it started, right? So till the time it had improved a lot, that is sure. But still, if we talk about drag and drop or some other functionality, like finding hidden elements, sometimes karate have challenges. Okay, and if you want to write something where code-driven functionality will drive your framework, right? Where you have to see in terms of scalability, parallelization, and other stuff where you have a complex 1,000, 2,000 test cases will come in, right? So in case, I think karate needs to be improved a lot. Okay, as per my experience, might be I'm wrong because I have a till time I have figured out, and I feel that Selenium is preferably very good in terms of UI automation. But in terms of if data validation or API we need to do, then definitely karate will be a good choice.
Okay, then I can say this way, like Selenium is preferable for UI part and API, because I'm quite like hearing about a lot from people about API thing, and karate is, sorry Rohit,
You are
you're on.
thinking in terms of expandable, scalable automation frameworks down the line, then yes, because if something is already established from years and years, right, where we have a more control over code. Because karate also I have faced where I have to take something from the response body and do some algorithm functionality over that, sanitize the data, then return back into assertion part, right? At that time also, karate has a lot of challenges because then we have to write separate Java classes in karate to filter out the response keys, right? Because karate is not only the feature file. If you need, then you have to write your own
A lot of
JavaScript,
code.
Java, Python code, and there need a lot of knowledge how we integrate karate with other language.
Oh, I see. Okay, nice. It's really good input, Ali and Rohit. Thanks for your input. Sorry guys, I'm just talking. Anyone has any questions, please come forward. The floor is all yours.
Hey, yeah, one question, last question. Okay, again, from the mindset of okay, the people who are trying to test for API. So, Ali, like usually, okay, yeah, right, this one. So the schema and the schema testing, or the schema validation. So,
Validation, right?
Yeah. So, how to go about that karate?
So as I mentioned in that demo, where you at least know your schema of the response, right? The only thing is you don't know what is a value that's going to come. So they have those lot of matching conditions where you can validate the response that's coming out of a API. That will help you at least. I mean, it is pretty much same to what you see in Postman. You have tiny validator, right? Which helps you thus just check the contract. It doesn't matter about the data in the contract. So similarly, you have a matching conditions out here in karate, which will help you just define, okay, I want this structure. I'm not worried about the data inside it. So you can put those things in your JSON structure and you can use it.
Who's that? So go ahead, someone side. I mean,
Hello.
I think it's data.
Yeah.
Data.
So can we do DB connection and validation?
Yes. DB connection, yes. I think I've used JDBC driver to do DB connection and it works in karate.
Okay.
And this one, Harit. So we see we see writing.
Ravi, your voice is breaking.
So we see that writing the basic checks for security, right? Again with some tools and libraries. So how can we approach that with karate? Like basic checks for security. Okay.
I think not right now. I haven't seen it in karate. They haven't. I don't see that functionality for security check part of it in it. But let me search around it. I don't see that is there right now from API testing perspective.
So security checks means OSAP top 10 checks, or what type of security checks?
It can be even was top 10 and not all top 10. For example, the role.
Yeah, it doesn't support. It
Yeah,
doesn't
But
support.
in most of the cases, Ravi, what would happen like this OWASP top 10 would be very much, you can use a lot of tools like Zap Proxy and those kind of things, which will actually internally capture all those API calls, and you can intercept that, and you can create your own test around it. Because for API perspective, uh, but my take would be like, these OWASP top 10 are more from how you can avoid this scripting, go into system CSS, cross-site injection, how you can avoid those kind of things. So a lot of those things are already in place in the UI layer of the application. Like if you say Angular, it doesn't allow do this, React doesn't allow do that. So a lot of those things are being filtered from the UI perspective. And then APIs are pretty much dependent on your data you're sending it, what are you sending it, and then there'll be restrictions in between what those API servers are there. So that will restrict those kind of things.
Correct. So dynamic code analysis will take the part over it when we talk about the sanitization of the request response for security level.
Ali and Rohit, have you tried working with the Angular app, which has NG content, those kind of locators? Is it like Karate even supports that, or it is not? Not only Angular content, like there are hidden what you can say, also available.
I haven't seen with Karate, but I have seen with Protector a lot, because Protector is a default,
Protector
framework
does,
provider. So, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't seen with this one with Karate. But yeah, you can check it.
No,
React,
actually,
I haven't.
Selenium have started supporting the Angular elements as well.
Okay.
Earlier, it was not there. But then, as you said, Ali and Rohit as well, like you're working on it, so probably you might have come across with Angular applications and that support.
I never choose for Angular application. I will never go and choose Karate for UI. I will go with Cypress or base Selenium.
Definitely. That's
So
a better.
that is what Rohit mentioned very well, because it depends on your tech stack. Because whatever you are building the framework, it should match your tech stack. So if you're a JavaScript tech stack, you would rely on JavaScript automation framework, because it will gel up pretty easy with that.
Most of the time, actually, the preference is always given to the open source things. Now, this is emerging. Why not? That's, in fact, find words actually. Hi, Arpit. You want to say something? Please go ahead.
To add, just wanted to add.
Arpit, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ganesh, even I haven't tried Karate with Angular, but few of my friends, okay, they did try, and they said, okay, it was not that easy when they did, but I don't have much context, okay, with the difficulties they had there. Yeah, but I haven't tried Karate already with Angular.
Not a problem, actually. I think, Ravi, if
Yes,
let's ask if anyone has questions, otherwise we can, thanks to Ali, and
thank you
for your inputs as well.
The good thing about this was, okay, we had more time to discuss on.
So most of the stuff was covered in the previous session. So I was just kind of brushing up things which I can share the experience that I had it. Probably I learned more from the discussion actually.
Right. So Ali, it was very good session, very good covered. I must say that, and excellent coverage.
Can we take one?
Thank you.
Ali, one more question here.
Yes,
in this API automation, if you do, how we can do here call chaining? Means API call chaining possible?
Yes. I think we showed it. In Karate, they have call once, call. You can do chaining with it. I think in any of the framework, even Postman does a lot of those things. So yeah, I think you can do the chaining between the calls. Yes.
Yeah. With that, I take an end for this workshop session. Thanks, Ali. Thank you, Rohit, for jumping in, and Ganesh, and all other people for coming in and sharing your thoughts and the questions. Yeah. With that, we will end this workshop, and we will move to the next workshop from Veena that talk about testing and cloud. Actually, we have Veena here. So before that, Swashika will come in and do the thanking notes for Ali, and yeah, from then we'll to the next.
Thank you, Ali. That was quite an interactive session.